On behalf of Dallas College and the sustainability team, welcome. Thank you for joining Sustainable Dallas College for our monthly Sustainable You webinar series. My name is Faye Davis, Assistant Director of Sustainability of Outreach and Engagement. We would like to thank our speakers and sponsors for donating their time and contributing to this webinar series. This is part one of a four-part series that celebrates the continued relationship of Dallas College Sustainability Office and the City of Dallas Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. Sustainable Dallas College encourages students, employees, business partners, and community members to seek sustainable solutions. The City of Dallas provides solutions that protect the economic, environmental, and social elements that make the DFW community strong, vibrant, healthy, and diverse. Susan Alvarez is the Assistant Director of the City of Dallas Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering with a minor in Geology from Rice University and postgraduate work in water resources. She is a registered professional engineer in Texas and 5 other Western states, and is a certified floodplain manager and Master Naturalist in Texas. She is currently focused on implementing the Comprehensive Environmental and Climate Action Plan, the Comprehensive Food and Urban Agriculture Plan, the city's participation in the City Business Climate Alliance, and other related efforts. We hope you enjoy her presentation.
I am so happy to join my friends at Dallas College today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is CECAP 101. What on earth is a CECAP, you might ask? It's not some overnight breathing device, and it's not just another pretty plan on the shelf. It is the City of Dallas Comprehensive Environmental and Climate Action Plan. So why would Dallas need a climate action plan? We don't have climate, we just have crazy weather. All of the pictures on this slide show some of the concerns we've had here in Dallas over the last 5 years. Did you know that Dallas and Texas in general leads the country in weather-related disasters that cost more than $1 billion? We lead the country in all 10 different kinds of crazy weather, from ice storms to tornadoes, even hurricane impacts come this far upland. And as we go over the last 40 years, you can see very clearly that these costs have gone up and we've had more of these events. So way back in actually 2017, Mayor Rawlings committed the city to meeting the goals of the Paris Climate Accord. When Mayor Johnson was elected in 2020, he renewed our commitment to implementing climate action here in Dallas. When we look at doing a climate plan, a lot of cities focus on mitigation or reducing the driving causes of climate issues around greenhouse gases. Some cities work on adaptation. That's doing disaster management, flood protection, trying to upgrade our infrastructure so that it's not so bad. As we were looking at these things, we also realized that mitigation and adaptation were really expensive, and so we started looking at nature-based solutions under environmental quality. And at the heart of all of this is environmental justice, because we know that those communities that have the least ability to address climate are the ones that will be impacted the most. So, well, how do you even start doing a climate plan? So our CECAP is based on the best mix in our mind. It is a science-based plan with targets and goals based on those greenhouse gas inventories. But more critically, we went over 250 meetings in our community so that we incorporated community input. So the Dallas plan fits Dallas. It's not the same as Austin or San Francisco or New York. It's a Dallas plan. So one of the first things we did is we had a series of meetings with the community to identify the baseline goals. What do we want to do in this plan? And we thought that we would have a couple things that we would be focusing on, but we ended up with 8 different goals. And it is all encompassing from, I say, from A to Z, from air quality to zero waste. We have buildings and energy. We have transportation. Most people relate to recycling and zero waste, but it's actually one of the smaller areas relative to greenhouse gases. The biggest area where Dallas has challenges is in the transportation sector. It is the largest single element in the plan. The next second adding up together is the buildings and energy segment. All of our buildings use energy. All of our energy comes from a mix of fossil fuels, renewables, and other forms of energy. As we look at trying to reduce our greenhouse gases from those forms of energy, increasingly we will need to look at using renewable forms such as solar and wind. As we look across the city, though, our biggest risk from climate, from an adaptation standpoint, is flooding and drought. And so that's where we have a lot of the city funding, is trying to make sure that we've got places for the water to go when we have those big, crazy storms. Additionally, we looked for areas where we can get the most bang for the buck. As we look for things that can provide benefits for mitigation, adaptation, and environmental quality, increasingly we look to our green spaces that improve air quality, they improve the way that the watershed transfers water, it stores water, it improves mental health, and in all of these measures improve public health in Dallas. Last but not least, when we went to the community to ask, what do you want in this plan, we said, you need to address food. What role does a city have with food? And the answer came back, so remember, we were doing this plan during COVID. We not only have communities that don't have access to healthy local food, some of our food comes as far away as 2,500 miles. And so we're vulnerable to any disruptions from climate or other reasons to our food supply chain, which is critical. So looking at those premises, looking at what the community told us they wanted us to address as goals, we just did free form. Again, we would go talk to anyone that would talk to us. And we had about 400 actions. 400 actions in a plan is a nightmare for anyone. And so we had to find a way to kind of hone it down to a more manageable set. So we looked at what they call co-benefits, which is in essence a fancy way of saying getting more bang for the buck. So we honed it down so that we had 97 actions that have one or more co-benefit. Co-benefits might be, it's affordable. It improves public health. It could be things like we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We're creating jobs. We're reducing poverty. All those things are considered as key measures of this plan. Additionally, we went and back-checked to see, okay, do we have some things in this plan where we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions? Check. Yep, 45 different actions. Do we have things in this plan that can help us adapt to a different future? Yep, 21 actions in this plan. Most of those, I will say also, are in that water section. Remember I said we were vulnerable there. Additionally, we have 20 different actions in the plan for environmental quality. And remember we talked about environmental justice being at the center of the plan? We have 11 actions in the plan that focus primarily on environmental justice. Do we have neighbors that are living right next to industry? Do we have areas that have more pollution than other? Are there things that we can do as a city to raise the quality of life for all of our communities. So where are we? Well, we adopted the plan unanimously in 2020. And right during that time frame, we were in COVID, which made any kind of planning to actually do things with people very challenging. We did 3, and we're on our 3rd work plan to kind of divide those 97 actions down into bite-sized pieces that we can do. We are actually working with 17 different city departments on implementing this work plan. How are we doing? Well, remember I said it was science-based? So we did some modeling, and the purple is transportation, the orange and the yellow are both energy from buildings and energy from both commercial and residential sources. The dashed line is the line that we need to be on if we're going to meet our goals for 2050. We did an update to that greenhouse inventory in 2019, and we're right where we need to be, which is great news, but we have a lot of work to do. So one of the other things we did is we back-checked our plan against the 6th report from the IPCC, and we realized that the actions that we have in our little plan in Dallas are totally consistent with the plans from this international report advising action. And again, looking at our integrated design approaches, looking at sustainable urban planning and infrastructure like green roofs, trying to get more parks and open spaces. All of it is consistent with what is being recommended internationally right now. The other thing is, we don't want it to be a pretty plan on the shelf, and our city council didn't want us going away and doing our thing without letting people know what we're up to. And so we built a dashboard and we built a website. So if you have any questions about this plan, go to dallasclimateaction.com. We have a public-facing dashboard. We send out emails to the community every now and then, letting you know new things that we're implementing. And then we also show all of the background reports that we use to develop this plan. I'm so happy I had a little bit of time to share with you today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. I'm at susan.alvarez@dallas.gov. I can be reached at 214-671-1200. And as one last thought I want to leave with you, that is, I had a conversation the other night with one of the leading climate scientists in the United States. She works for the Nature Conservancy. And what she said that left a lasting impression, and I will share with you, is that we don't have decades to address biodiversity or climate. We have years. And with that, we have to do as much as we can, as soon as we can. Thank you so much for listening in today.
Thank you, Susan, for joining us today, and thank you to our audience for tuning in. Now is the time where we're going to do a Q&A session with Susan to talk about CECAP. And my first question to you, Susan, is how has the City of Dallas been working with climate experts when developing this plan?
Well, we realized that we didn't know what we didn't know. And being somewhat nerdy, we did a bunch of research. One of the first things we did is we worked for a group called the American Insurance Institute to get a report on what our real risk was in Dallas. And that was part of our original resilience plan that led to the climate plan. Our biggest risk is crazy thunderstorms with hail and the wind that comes with those storms. And most people that have been in Dallas for a little bit have had the joy of experiencing that. So that's the biggest risk. The other thing that we did is way back in 1990, the first President Bush worked with Congress to pass something called the U.S. Global Change Research Program. And they required in that program the 13 federal agencies that work with climate science are required to brief Congress every 4 or 5 years or so. So we pulled up the 4th National Climate Assessment from that group and used a lot of the data that those scientists had pulled together. That was in 2018. I got invited to join the team for the 5th National Climate Assessment. And it's been great because when we have a question, I now know where there are scientists that I can call and ask for information or ask for the latest studies that they've seen about the things that we're worried about.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Next question. So how can individuals get more involved in the development of this plan and implementing this plan in the city of Dallas?
That's a fabulous question, and it is an important question. You don't have to drive an EV. You don't have to put solar on your house, but it's little day-to-day things like turning the light switch off like your parents used to tell you when you left the room. The other thing is we have stood up an environmental commission with the sole purpose of trying to engage our residents as we implement this plan. The commission meets the second Wednesday of every month. It's a hybrid meeting, so you can come hang out with us at City Hall, or you can stay at home in the comfort of your jammies with your dinner. It's typically from 5 to about 8. The agendas for those meetings are always on the city secretary site or on dallasclimateaction.com. If you feel that you really want to share your information with this commission and with the city, we always have room for speakers to share their experience and share their concerns about whatever topics. And so that's one way, but our commissioners are really some of the hardest working people in Dallas. They do all kinds of projects in their respective districts, and they're always looking for volunteers to help. Sometimes it's a cleanup, sometimes it's planting trees, sometimes it's working. We've been doing a lot of work with our friends in the planning department to update our concrete batch plant regulations so that it provides the community with a way of knowing what's going on in their community relative to potential sources of pollution and actually speaking those concerns publicly. And I think that's absolutely critical if we're going to clean our air in Dallas.
Absolutely. And I, just as a follow-up, I loved in your presentation when you were talking about how you were hearing those voices from our community and incorporating those voices into the plan. I think often a lot of people can feel that, you know, government speaks for us, and it's not our voice. It's not what we're trying to say. And I just commend your department, the City of Dallas, for getting those voices straight from the community.
Well, thank you, but I think it's critically important. I know when we developed our plan, we actually came and talked with students at 2 or 3 different Dallas College campuses with the environmental clubs. We did meet with the Sunrise Movement. We're probably one of the few cities that has worked with their chapter of the Sunrise Movement, and they're a powerful and important voice. We need students' help moving forward, and so we absolutely need to listen to their concerns and figure out a way to incorporate the ideas they've got into the plan, and we've been doing that ever since. I mean, everything from literally the Democratic Eco-Socialists to the Dallas Regional Chamber. I mean, really, everyone has concerns. Climate impacts everyone. It is critical that we get out into those neighborhoods where we anticipate the larger brunt and to figure out what we can do to address their particular challenges.
Thank you. All right. So next question, can the city commit to policies and interventions that will reduce our community-wide emissions to net zero by the year 2050? I heard you mention that in your presentation.
It is. We have to. We have no choice. And not only that, we understand full well that the city of Dallas proper, with the municipal emissions, is only about 2 or 3% of the region, or of the city of Dallas, and the city of Dallas is only about 20-25% of the emissions in the region. So not only do we have to implement actions, we need to work with our community, with our businesses, with our neighbors in other communities. It has to be a collective action.
Just as a follow-up to that, where can the community track our air quality? I know there's a lot of resources available.
There are a lot of resources, and we're actually working, and that's one of my groups that I would like to have come to a similar session like that. We're in the process of implementing neighborhood air monitors. We're data-driven. We're looking at health outcomes along with where we have known sources of pollution. And what do you know? They're in similar areas. And so we're implementing a series over the next year. We'll be implementing over 40 monitors across Dallas, meeting with the community to find out where they have concerns, implementing the monitors in those locations. And then in the equity thing, you don't just do stuff and then go away. We're coming back with a public-facing website that's under construction right now. I wish I could show it to you, but it's not there yet. But a public-facing dashboard with that data, so that if you're having trouble breathing, you can look and go, oh, yeah, it's a bad air day, no wonder. We're also working with partners at Parkland Health and with Children's Health, and then there's another nonprofit called Asthma Chasers, on what that messaging for the bad air days should be. We've found that we have schools, elementary schools, where on a bad air day, they can have up to just under 30% absenteeism due to asthma. Yeah. So obviously those kids have a strike against them if they're not feeling well enough to go to school. There's another piece to that, and that is the north central Texas area that is 16 counties that's in the DFW Metroplex. We're on the naughty list with respect to EPA. We're on severe non-attainment, where they're making noises about fees for stationary sources, like my favorite batch plants, and fines if we don't collectively get the air improved. Wow. And so that's a huge incentive for us to look at our transportation modes. And quite frankly, just buying EVs is nice, but with the people that are moving here, we still have congestion. We need to be a little smarter about how we get around, and we need to be a little bit smarter even on how we do our development, so that people can live and work and play in the same community and not have to drive across Dallas to get to a decent paying job.
Right, right. Well, that is a perfect segue to the question of economic and racial injustice. And you mentioned that a little in your presentation as well, but I know a lot of people don't make the connection between racial injustice and climate change. Can you please dig a little bit deeper?
I can. I can, and I will. So on the economics, it's pretty simple. We can only do what we have money to do. So that's where it really makes sense for us to spend our money in the best and smartest way. The other thing is that not just in Dallas, but worldwide, those communities that have the least means to be able to address climate change are and will be the communities that are most impacted by it. And so it is critical. This is one of those rising seas raise all ships, but also if we don't raise all ships, we're going to have people drowning. And so we have to address, I would say environmental justice is racial justice. And we have to implement our climate plan with an eye on environmental justice, or we're not going to succeed.
Right. Well, we'll end it with my final question. How is the city going to enforce these goals?
Our city manager likes lots of E words. Equity is one, empathy is one, excellence, ethics is one. Enforce is not on that list. What we are really working on is providing education so that people understand what they can do and what's going on. We fully plan to make incentives available as budget allows, and or leveraging grants as we can, to be able to help people adapt to a different future. And then only down the road, if nothing else works and people aren't getting it, then use enforcement and ordinances. But we really want to, as we talk to, in particular, students, we talk to staff at the city, people understand more about climate and more about what's going on than I think most people understand. Our young staff are going crazy getting things implemented. Look, we've got a water bottle dispenser. Look, we've done, we're doing tree planting. Look, we've converted our cars. And look, we've got a bus pass going on. So we want to work with positive messaging and education so people can understand what they can do. And again, it can be simple things like taking your lunch to work. Saves money, also saves food waste if you're like me and I buy a bunch of stuff and then I don't make my lunch. But it also helps the environment as well. I would say if you're looking for groceries, buy local if you can, if it's in season. That helps the local producers. You don't have the emissions coming all the way from California or China or Mexico or Chile. So there's a lot of little things, and they add up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Susan. I think the City of Dallas and Dallas College, we have the same goal. And like you said, the first step is educating. Yeah. Educating the community.
That's why the job you do is so critically important.
Thank you. Well, we will leave you here. Please like and subscribe this video and to the Sustainable Dallas College YouTube channel. And please get notifications so you can see when the next video is. And this is part 1 of a series that the City of Dallas will participate in. Thank you.